Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
I remember sitting outside in the grass, just like, what will I do with this one life? And I didn't know the answer to that, but what I knew it wasn't, what I didn't want to do was lead a cleaning company anymore.
Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and this is my friend and co-host Danelle.
Hi, everyone.
Guess what? We're not alone today.
No, we're not.
We have an amazing guest. We're so excited, everybody, to introduce you to Kristen Hadeed.
Hey.
Hello, hi.
Welcome.
Finally.
Welcome. I hope I don't do like a shrill high note because I'm so excited.
I know, you are a little hyper today.
I am.
And so am I.
Just so excited. We feel like we're all grown up now, Kristen, because you're here. She's an author. She's a speaker. She was an idol of ours for a long time. And so we're going to tell you more about that. I don't want to spoil anything. But before we get started, I want to give you a proper introduction so that you guys can get to know Kristen if you already don't know her. So Kristen Hadeed believes that authentic human leaders can change the world. At 19, with hardly any leadership experience, Kristen started a cleaning business called Student Made as a way to earn money during college. Before she graduated, her company received a contract to clean hundreds of apartments, and it changed her path forever. Over the next 14 years, Kristen learned a lot by screwing up. Wink, wink. That sounds familiar to know. But most importantly, she learned how to lead from her heart, which we absolutely love about her. Today, Kristen's business has evolved, and she's going to tell us more about that. And her time is spent helping leaders, teams, and organizations around the world to embrace their humanity. Please help us give a warm welcome, Self Smarter listeners, to our friend, Kristen Hadeed.
Oh my gosh, just real quick, you have a bio voice.
I do?
Like your voice changed when you introduced her. Like
awesome.
I would appreciate more of that, like when you introduced me.
This is Danelle Macchiami. She's here to sing you lots of karaoke songs.
Anyway, we're so incredibly happy. And I do want to share with you that when we were putting together the plan for this podcast and like dreaming about what it could be and where it could be, you literally were the first guest that we wanted. And in terms of the author and entrepreneur column, we want to have a bunch of different guests on the podcast, but you were top of that list. So this is a very special milestone for us having you here. And it's funny because that was back in, I don't know, end of 2021. And our relationship has continued to foster, and you've worked with our organization so much. So this is just a special day on a number of fronts. And we had a great time last night, and we had some queso and margs. So we're ready to go this morning. And just really happy to have you.
Yay! I thought it would be so much fun if I quizzed you both a little. You know how I love.
She loves that.
Pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Okay.
How did you two get to know each other? So how did this all happen?
You want to go?
Who wants to start?
You go.
I want to hear if y'all's stories line up.
You tell your version and then I'll tell mine.
Okay, perfect. All right. So Megan and I've shared many a time that we were avid listeners of the EntreLeadership podcast. All for years and years and years. And so your podcast, I think you were on there in like around 2018.
2017.
Oh, 17. Okay. And that's when your book came out in 2017, which we'll talk more about. And so I listened to the episode, and I listened to it before Meg did. So we would beat each other to the podcast, and I was, oh my gosh, have you listened to the episode with this Kristen Hadeed? I was like, first of all, her story is amazing, and she has, in the title of her book is Screw Up, which we know a lot about.
I remember that.
So, and I was like, it's the permission to screw up. And I was just like, her story, her energy, you have to listen this. And so then, I started following your newsletter. Megan and I kind of started following you as another thought leader. And then COVID hits. And so that's when you started to really transform your future relative to your business was over 10 years old at that point, your cleaning business that you started in Gainesville in college in Florida, which is in itself amazing. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then COVID hits and I start to reading your writing. Like I can see you going through this thought process that made me feel so less alone. And there were a few people that were actually sharing the vulnerabilities that I was feeling that was making me feel alone as a leader at times, and especially as an owner. And so I started to really foster this connection with you, unbeknownst to you, because we didn't know each other. But I would look forward to your post and the way that you would share your information. So then you developed the Human Leadership Program. And the very first one, I said, Meg, we're going to attend. And it was virtual because we were still in the throes of the pandemic. And we had the option. You could do the regular registration or registration plus VIP, which VIP stands out to me. And I'm like, bing.
Fancy, I didn't even, that's why.
Yeah, fancy, yeah. Sometimes. And I didn't know what VIP, but I hit that and recorded it. And so what it was that we did the 2-day Human Leadership Program with you, which we thought was amazing. And then there was an after session, and you were bouncing into the Zoom rooms. And I don't remember, I feel like you were not in the Zoom room when our group started to exchange information, and you popped in, and I think it happened to be when someone had teed me up, like, what's your story or why? I don't remember exactly. I think I was actually talking about what I just referred to all of you listeners is why I was, intrigued with Kristen and how she's been a thought leader for now. It would be like the last 3 years of our journey. And so then all of a sudden you and I just started to connect in that session, and then it led to us committing to support students to go through the program, and we put I think next step was our executive team and management team through the next Human Leadership Program, and then this dialogue started. And then I'll stop there because I know you're going to want to talk about our high points and some low points in our relationship together since then. But that's my recollection, and I'm probably a little bit more of a context of how we began to stalk you and found our way into your Zoom chat room. What's your version?
My version.
Okay.
So we host the first Human Leadership Program. We have like 300 people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what we're doing. We've never done this before. The team and I are so nervous. Mm-hmm. We want this to be such a success. And I remember it was day one. There was a group discussion. We had everyone there, and we were talking about leadership and challenges that are weighing on you, and like, what are we wanting to get out of this? And there were so many parts where we opened the floor, who wants to share? And you shared. And I had a notepad next to my computer, and I just wrote your name down because there was something about you, your energy, what you said. I don't remember what you said, but it was good.
I'm sure it was profound.
It was profound. Your name down. And then on day 2, we had the Real Talk happy hour, which was like the bonus session at the end. It was an intimate group, and we were talking about, the themes of the 2 days. And that's when I really connected with you, because I remember you talked about vulnerability and evolving as a leader. And little did I know that you were having an evolution yourself in your business.
Yes.
And I think we had this parallel journey.
Absolutely.
And I could just feel in that just short conversation that there was a lot there that I thought we could explore. So we had a chat after, a few weeks after. And we did talk about you supporting students, and thank you so much. Sending students to the program. And I remember just after we chatted feeling like, wow, I feel less alone as a leader because of what you shared with me about your story. And I saw so much of my journey in yours, and I think you saw that.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, as you said, there's a lot more. But
there's a lot more to the story, and we'll let Meg take us through that. But that wasn't too out of alignment. Sometimes when you and I share the same version of a story, it's very different.
And you never know what direction it's going to go.
We have similar memories.
You do.
That's good.
You do. No, that's good. It's in alignment, so I am happy with that.
You passed the quiz.
You did.
Yay.
You did. That's very good. And we're going to talk more about that evolution right after this quick commercial. Do you want to give a great gift to someone who's graduating from high school, college, or maybe even trade school soon? Guess what? At Sell Smarter, we're giving away a free hour of coaching time with Danelle and the student of your choice. What a great opportunity for someone who's entering the workforce or starting on their next phase of development in their career to have an hour with Danelle. She's coached students for years, guys. And so this is a real opportunity for someone that you care about to reap the benefits of having just 1 hour with a business leader. We're giving away up to 5 hours. So hurry, go to selfsmarter.com, fill out the form. Jordan has it ready for you, and we'll be in contact to schedule your coaching session. Okay, Kristen, let's talk about that evolution a little bit. You touched on that, and that's definitely something we want to talk about with you today. Relative to your business, I talked about it in the intro in your bio, Student Made. Yeah. How did Student Made evolve into what you're doing today? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. This is a story.
This is.
So let's see. I'm 19 years old. This is in 2007. I'm a student at UF in Gainesville. I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. You know, I'm thinking of maybe pursuing a career in finance, but not really sure what that looks like.
Wasn't Wall Street in there somewhere?
Yeah, I was thinking Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And looking back, I didn't do well in my finance classes.
We have dreams, Kristen. That's okay.
And I think I was looking for a way to make money, and so I started cleaning houses. I never did it because I wanted it to be a business or my career. Mm-hmm. And slowly it grew, got some clients. They told their friends about me. The real turning point was what you shared in my bio. I got this big contract to clean all these apartments. I hired 60 students. It was 21. I knew nothing about leadership, nothing about business, complete disaster. 45 of the 60 walk off the job a couple days in. That was like just the beginning of many screw ups to follow. But that was really my moment that I think for me, I realized I want to learn about leadership. I want to learn how to build a place where people really want to be. And the challenge of how do you do that in a company where you're cleaning toilets? Yeah. That was what I think excited me and really sparked my curiosity about leadership. So turned down a path in finance that I don't even know it was actually there. Go fully into this cleaning company. It's called Student Made. And at that time, I remember thinking, my dream is to have student-made locations in college towns all over the country.
Love it.
No one could have told me that one day that would change. I was so certain that was the vision that I had for the company, myself, like without a doubt. And so over the next 14 years, grew that company to employ thousands of students. And we really focused on leadership development. And our whole thing was, we're cleaning toilets, but really what we're doing is we're becoming leaders. And we want to equip you with the skills that you really need to thrive in your life, and then for you to move on. And one day to look back and say, I'm so happy I cleaned toilets there. I really learned a lot about leadership. Yeah. And for a long time, I was really happy. And I went to work every day feeling so fulfilled and so like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then there was a day when that changed.
Yeah, there's so much in what you just, in that short description. And I remember you and I having a conversation. I think it was either during Human Leadership or during one of the retreats that you've been out for our company, but we shared that in common. So our listeners know about my 26% approval rating as a leader and how it was that defining moment where I could go left or I could go towards the light, which is working on me and therefore becoming the type of leader that creates an environment that make other people the best version of themselves, or at least invites that, right? So I remember you and I having that, when they walked off the job, because I think we joked, like mine was 26%, but yours was technically 25% approval rating.
I was actually just thinking, so who won? That's not the one you want to win.
No, not at all. But having that and then realizing, I built this thing. Yeah. This is what I thought I wanted. Yeah. And then I think listeners, this is where the story is so impactful, this is when you started to wrestle with giving yourself the permission to change. So talk to us about that.
Yes. So in building the company, I quickly recognized that my passion, where I really came alive, was in the teaching. We would have sessions with our students where we would teach them, how to give feedback or how to build a relationship and build trust. And whenever I was in that kind of environment, I felt like I was in my superpowers and my sweet spot. It didn't feel like work. I loved it. But as soon as I would go back to the operations or talking about cleaning products or, how are we going to go from this location to this many, all the energy would just be sucked out of me. And now I know that that's a sign that I wasn't really in my full sweet spot. I think that I had to try all these hats in the business to really learn about myself
Sure.
and to learn what I was motivated by. But there was a point in the company where, because of our growth and being known in our industry for our culture, we had other companies wanting me to come and help them kind of create a similar environment. And so I was doing a lot of the teaching and facilitating, and I started to notice this very big shift. When I would do that work, I would be so excited. When I would come back and focus on cleaning, complete opposite. And at first I didn't know what to do with that. You know, this idea of, what do you do when you're the owner of a company and you realize you're not excited about the vision anymore? And the thought of opening all these locations was not at all what I wanted to do. So what did I do? I didn't listen to that voice. And I just...
What do you think, what emotions were driving that? Did you feel...
Did I feel what?
I don't know. I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but
I think I felt shame, guilt, fear.
Because you weren't enjoying the thing that you built, that people were like
I'm supposed to like
this.
Yes.
This is successful, because it was a successful company by most metrics.
Yes.
Or all metrics that you were trying to achieve, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And reading the book, there were a lot of green lights, as Matthew McConaughey would say. Like, you had all these signals that said, you're winning, this is a good thing, and then you're starting to feel that this does not fulfill me.
Right.
And it's guilt, and there's a lot mixed in, because I certainly wrestled with a lot of that myself. And, you know, and there's no secret to our listeners, a lot of therapy that helped me work through that. But so that's interesting. And so you have this realization, you're now wrestling with these emotions. What were some key things that really propelled you to make the change?
Yeah. So I think I just reflected on something that I have never thought about before, that I think what was also so hard about it is, while I was juggling these new emotions, I was also speaking about the company. So I felt like I was being inauthentic.
Oh.
You know, I was giving talks about how amazing our culture and all these things, when deep down inside, I didn't feel fulfilled by that, right? And so honestly, it wasn't until the pandemic that I did something about it. And it was early in March, shortly after everything had closed down, and I had a mentor, Bob Chapman. He wrote Everybody Matters. And we were just having a chat about what's going on in the world. Like, what am I going to do? You know, we temporarily closed the business to keep everyone safe. And I remember he said to me, this is your chance to write the story that you really want to write. And what will you do with this one life that you have, that you've been given? And I reflected on that question. I remember sitting outside in the grass, just like, what will I do with this one life? And I didn't know the answer to that, but what I knew it wasn't, what I didn't want to do was lead a cleaning company anymore. And so the question became, well, how do I start to reinvent? And I'm very grateful that I have a team where we have a high sense of psychological safety, and we are totally vulnerable with one another. And so I came to a meeting not long after that and said, I have this realization. I really don't want to continue as we've been going. And this wasn't a secret to them.
No.
They knew that I had felt that way. So I asked everyone, on a scale of 1 to 10, how passionate are you about cleaning? And how passionate are you about leadership development? And everyone was like 0 for cleaning, which wasn't even a choice, because I said 1 to 10 and everyone's giving it a 0.
Wow.
And then leadership development, 9 to 10. So it was that conversation that really changed our path. And we can talk more about that as
Did you ever think that they would say that cleaning was 9 to 10?
I didn't think so.
You know?
And and this is when I go back, I think, what took me so long? Because, you know, one thing I took away from this is, as the leader, your passion and your energy is what is fueling the team and the company.
Absolutely.
Right? And when I look back at that time, we weren't growing. We weren't doing new, innovative things. We were just maintaining what we had done, you know?
Right.
And it was directly related to my energy.
Sure.
And so I feel, so the hard part for me is that I really did my team a disservice by not acting on these feelings sooner, I think, because what does it feel like to have a leader who has lost passion and energy? It can't be fun.
Yeah, and disservice is a pretty tough term, but I felt the same.
Yeah.
And I think it's there's so much in it because you feel the obligation to keep this business that the people are working at. So you're talking about, you went to your team. That was pretty much your management leadership team, right? Yeah. And then you had all these students that were making, income that was probably paying for school and loans and their livelihoods. And so I would say from an ownership seat, like that can sometimes, it's a fog. I mean, it keeps you from seeing things clearly, but it's not ill will. It's not, like I'm trying to do that. And so I think just having some empathy for you and understanding that sometimes that does get in the way. And that's what, one of the genesis of why we started this podcast is so that maybe if we share some things, there can be a little bit more ease for clarity around the struggles that inevitably come with leadership and leadership decisions, because that's what you're talking about. And also the permission, your book is, again, we'll put all the links in the show notes, but Permission to Screw Up it's also a lot about what it ended up becoming. And I know you have another book in the works, which I can't wait to hear about, but it's like the second part of that is the permission to change. Yes. And sometimes you just don't feel like you can do anything else. Yes. And I'm in the midst of doing that also for DMA. Megan's running DMA and the team are doing a wonderful job. And it's like, what brings me energy and where do I want to put time towards? I carry guilt. But then I started to think, wait a minute, this is going to create more opportunity. And but it took me a while to get there. I mean, a long while.
I will say, as from a non-owner, but listening to both owners, as an employee of a company, it is a great gift to watch someone be enlightened or changed. It took me a while to accept that. Like, this is an actual gift to be on this journey with someone who is having a wake up, is open their eyes and having to negotiate all the things that they set in motion. And I say that to Danelle now a lot. I say, well, you remember, you curated this experience, right? That's my new tagline for her. But for you, maybe the shame is I curated this whole thing out of grit and guts and to help other people. And now I've done it. And now it's time for me to move on. To me, to witness that is the gift of a lifetime. And to feel a stage of enlightenment, you can only hope people have it in their lifetime. And for you at such a young age, that's the difference, I think. That's what makes Kristen extra special, is this woman started a business at 19 and then everyone walked out on her. And so she probably thought you probably wanted to throw your damn hands in the air. But you didn't.
Because I was on the line. I signed a contract. I had to get those.
That's right. You had to do it. And you were thinking about me. Then your mind, the enlightenment came up and you started to think about we. How are we going to get better? And then you circled back to, wait a minute, I forgot about me.
Yeah.
So it's like this full circle of, man, you're probably not done.
No. I have to break it to you. You're not.
Because you're still so young and vibrant and you've got so much beautiful life left, right? So tell us where you are now.
So I think what I recognized is Student Made became this place where the point wasn't to stay, right? We wanted people to take what they learned and go somewhere else. And it's what you said. It took me a long time to recognize that applies to me too. Like, just like Student Made was a stepping stone for so many people, it was a stepping stone for me. And I really needed the team to help me with that evolution because I was so close to it that I couldn't really see a way through. I just knew what I didn't want anymore. And I think this is where the power of vulnerability really can come to life on a team, letting people in, acknowledging that you don't know what the next step is, and allowing people to help you. And so the first version of our evolution looked like potentially partnering with an alumni of Student Made who would keep the company going, and we would support her. And what I recognized in that is really I wasn't letting go. I was looking for a way to continue to stay with the company. And if I really wanted to do this and go after what I was passionate about, I really had to move on and evolve from this. So we decided not to go in that direction. and instead transform into a full-blown leadership development company.
Wow.
We were already working with companies and teams, and so
and you were speaking in the book,
like
and
200 events a year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we had that business growing, and so what happened is the leadership team came with me to that business. We focused on growing that. The Human Leadership Program is one of the ways we did that. And then we sold the cleaning business to two of our competitors, not the name, not the brand, but our clients. Every student had the option to go, continue on, or we would help them find a job somewhere else with a culture where they would be taken care of. We helped with resumes, we helped with interviews.
That's incredible.
And altogether it was, we announced it in January, the company transitioned in May on our 14-year anniversary. When we announced it in January, the change, we didn't know how it was going to happen. We didn't have our buyers yet. We didn't know anything. All we knew is that we were going to be a leadership development company in May. And that was another example where it was so vulnerable to share this news with our team and to not have that plan and to live in the question together. And I think my fear going in is, what if the team is upset with me, angry with me? How could you do this? Instead, what I was met with is, we want you to follow your dream. Yeah. And so it just makes me think, how many of us get stuck in our heads?
Yes.
We assume what people are going to think, how they're going to respond, and then we don't end up living the fullest, most authentic version of our life because of that.
Yeah, the fear gets in the way, and often the fear is it's not reality.
Yeah, I mean, what's surfacing for me again.
And let me just clarify something. Sorry, Meg, I interrupted you. This was January of 2020.
2021.
2021 is when you made the transition. Okay.
Decided in March.
Decided
in the grass.
Right before the holidays in December.
Okay.
Told the team, give me the holidays to just, the leadership team, give me the holidays to just sit with this and make sure. Came back to work early January, and I was like, yep,
here we go.
I'm ready.
Yep. Okay.
The thing that just keeps, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, if I would have been on your team, like how would I have felt? I would have been so trusting. And I think that's, maybe you see that, maybe you don't, but the people that work for you, that conversation that you had in January, they, to call it student made, call it leadership, call it let's go change the world. We're coming with you because we trust you, Kristen. It's the same thing with Danelle. She can go jump off a bridge. I'm probably going to jump with her because she's going to be like, we're going to land fine. Everything's going to be great. A parachute's going to appear and we're just going to coast down and be like, okay, sister. So to earn that, were you being vulnerable? Did you mentioned the word vulnerable, but did you find that vulnerability came easy to you or hard to you during that time of transition?
There was one meeting where I think I painted the glass a little too full. Like I wanted people to feel safe, and so I promised some things that didn't actually happen.
It's hard to say.
And that was fear. It was, I wanted so much for everyone to feel safe. And then we had these weekly communication, meetings where if you wanted to come and learn about the transition, we would talk about it. And I started doing two things. Here's what I know and here's what I don't know. And it felt so freeing.
Absolutely.
To just own, there's a lot I don't know. And I think I fully embraced living in this period where we don't have answers and we're not going to get, we can say we have them, but that's not true. So let's just really embrace this. And I think we as a team lived in the question together. There were definitely times where I thought, ooh, this is vulnerable. And when I start to feel that discomfort, that's how I know I need to say it.
Ooh,
absolutely.
So I judge how vulnerable I need to be based on how uncomfortable I am, if that makes sense.
And I'm guessing over time we talked about haste, like how to be unsuccessful.
Yeah, that was a recent
answering
episode.
very hastily.
Yes.
But you've learned how to hone that, rein that in.
Purpose.
Right.
Why am I sharing this? What is the impact on people if I share this?
Right.
So one thing I think about our listeners, Kristen, I know we share this and may have us go deeper on this, but for our listeners, you're an Enneagram 2. Yes. And so our listeners are, we're a community of Enneagram enthusiasts. And so thinking about you being a 2 in that seat and knowing that the 2 pleaser, I mean, think about it. And you that is in your core being, and your desire is to make other people feel exactly what you say, safe and loved and taken care of. Like that's just who you are naturally. So then to sometimes feel like you're not in a position to potentially be able to say, here's exactly how things are going to go. You know, here again, and it's such a self-smarter moment and something for us all to take away is it's okay to be like, here's what I do know. Here's what I do think is absolutely going to happen. And then here's the whole pile of the question marks, but we'll figure that out together, you know, and maybe you have more piles than two. But I think sometimes as the leader, whether that's owner or CEO or president, it's you or any leader. It doesn't have to be a designation by title. When you feel the responsibility of a group and you don't have everything figured out, sometimes we get paralyzed. But to your beautiful point, that's probably the time to start taking some steps. Doing it, though, with, and I know, and this is another kind of part of, and we haven't even mentioned it, and I'd love to explore this, Meg, so put this in the footnote, but Kristen knows Simon Sinek, I know. Yay, and has worked with him. And I actually went to one of Kristen's sessions with Simon. But it's the why. And we talk about that a lot on here. So it's not just the why a company exists or why, it's also in those other moments of why are we doing this, or why am I feeling vulnerable, or why are we stuck? That's where some of that gut feeling that you're talking about comes from. So I just think that is, you know, I think it's part of the journey as leaders that we have to be a bit more conscious of. It's not just what we're doing or how, because honestly, that's often the easiest part. It's the why and what we know and what we don't. So,
and trusting yourself too. I mean, you know, we have you have people that trust you to lead them and offer them a place to work that's beautiful and fulfilling and lucrative, you know, all the things that people want in life typically. You got to trust yourself. And that's that voice, that little gut, and it's hard as leaders to listen to her or however many people that you have talking to you. But that little voice is the clue, the indicator that, something is off here. And I think for people who tend to process internally, we know for sure 2s, 9s, 6s, like there's 4s potentially process, and on the Enneagram, those numbers is what I was talking about, tend to process internally and have a hard time showing the truth because they think people won't like it.
Right.
If you really see me, then maybe you won't like me. And did you find that to be true? Did they still follow you? Did they unlike you after you showed your cards?
I didn't, unless someone felt this and didn't say it. I didn't have anyone say,
agreed. Yeah.
I can't believe you're doing this.
No.
I don't trust you. It was the opposite.
Absolutely.
And I felt like our team was the strongest we had ever been in our whole years up to that point. Those few months of that transition, that's when I really learned what kind of team we were, you know? And I think what you said about the voices, voices,
whichever.
What are you? We're like, where are you? Do you have one?
I have a couple.
Looky there.
Which, by the way, random. There's a book called Taming Your Gremlin. Have you heard of this?
No,
it's
but
a book
I
of all the
need to
voices
buy it
that
for
can
somebody.
exist, and you can identify as you read the book which ones maybe you have.
So identify the voice.
Taming Your Gremlin.
Look at me being validated.
Yay.
So I think the question is, do you create space and stillness for yourself to hear what your heart is telling you?
Yes.
Because for me, I just stayed busy. I was on the road.
That's so
200
easy,
events a
right?
year. That's how I was able to bury that feeling for so long, by just staying busy. But when the pandemic happened and everything came to a stop, that's when I couldn't ignore it. It was so loud that's when I did something about it. And so now I'm more intentional with, how do I create that space for myself on a daily basis? For me, it's going for walks. And I just did an 8-day trip by myself, which was really uncomfortable at times, but it was also to connect with myself. And so how can we live authentically? How can we be vulnerable if we're not even in touch with what is happening in here?
Yeah. I agree. And we'll put, again, all the links in the show notes, but I really encourage our listeners to follow Kristen Hadeed on Instagram, and her blog comes out every Tuesday. And I look so forward to it because she doesn't necessarily you're not teaching. And that, I mean, I like to be taught things, but you're sharing, and that's your method for teaching. And I love it so much. And it's not a fluff piece. So it's like I read, there's things I look forward to in the week, and definitely on Tuesdays I look forward to getting yours. James Clear's comes on Thursday. Seth Godin is in my inbox every morning. I mean, I have my people. So I would highly encourage everyone to follow Kristen, because it's really good stuff. So
the traveling, I want to touch on that, because I've really been watching you talk about that on social media specifically. Yeah. And you said it, you spent 8 days by yourself, and you went from kind of stressed Kristen, coming off high energy Kristen, to let my hair go, no makeup Kristen. Yeah. How did that, tell me a little bit about that time you spent with yourself. What did you learn? I think this is important for leaders to do.
So I booked the trip a year before I went on it. At that time, I was very close to burnout. I just knew I needed something, a getaway, and I wanted to do it alone. And when I found this particular retreat that I went on the homepage, it said, for people who are peopled out. And it really resonated with me, not because I was peopled out. I just wanted a place where I didn't need to be on. And I think you know that feeling, right? Like where you're, especially when you're the owner of a company and you're, for me, I'm giving speeches, like my energy is
high,
the energy of the room, right? Yes. And I just wanted a time where I didn't have to be on.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I booked it. Didn't really know much about it. It was in Baja, Mexico, 8 days. The first few days were a little like, okay, what am I going to do with all this time?
Like, did it have, there was no activities. It wasn't it wasn't a retreat.
And it was a solo thing. So it was just the retreat facilitator and myself.
And for a 2, that's tough.
For rural, like very rural part of Mexico, dirt roads, and the first few days it was just me there on the property, going for walks. There were some times where I was just going a little bit stir crazy. And then I started to get really comfortable with stillness. Wow. And just, I don't have anywhere to be. I don't have anything to do. I'm just going to sit here for 20 minutes and then I'll figure out what's next after that, So
it's almost like the acceptance of nothing.
Yes. And then in part 2 of the trip, I was ready for some action. So I did some things that I'm scared of. So like I'm terrified of snorkeling. I don't know why, but
because of sharks, I'll tell you why. Things that bite.
Things that sting in Mexico.
Things that want to eat you in the ocean that are not normal.
That's why. And I did it. And it was so empowering. I did things that, I thought would help me grow. And I'll do that every year. A solo trip somewhere.
Nice.
Same length of time.
Man, I've got to work on it. You and I need to have some combos on it, because I've tried it. Well, obviously I've moved to New York, but I did one in Italy and then we've talked about it on episode, I think that's 34, where I talk about my solo trip to Tuscany. I could not get past one aspect of being alone. Well, first of all, being alone is really difficult for me, but I would say that eating alone, I have the same fear of that as I do snorkeling, and I don't have a fear of snorkeling, but your fear of snorkeling. And I haven't been able to get over it. And I'm getting closer to it in New York. There's certain ways I can do it where I feel okay, but I don't know. It's parts of that I still need to explore and understand why I struggle. But you continue to be an inspiration for me and taking the time that I need to. But it's like I have to go to extremes to do it, and I would like for it to be a little bit less extreme-y. Like you know what I mean? Like I wish I could just do it so easily. And I just want listeners out there who struggle with that downtime. That's okay. And that's very normal, because it gets preached to us a lot. Yeah. I feel like, there's a lot of talk about taking time to go think and go do. I mean, I'm in it for, I can work myself up to almost 2 hours now, but that's taking me a long time. Yeah. So for those leaders and listeners out there that may still be struggling with that, you're not alone, because I'm still working through some of that myself. So,
and I think for Kristen and you, even going to Tuscany, it's like you can't get out of it. Like when you're there at a retreat where you specifically went to disconnect, day 2, you're like, dang, I really disconnected. Now what? You know? In Tuscany, you had the same deal. Like there was no cell service. I remember you trying to call me, and it was like crackly, and you'd go away, and then you were like, "I'm so frustrated." And then, but in New York, that's your home. So it's not really your new home.
Oh,
You know, you're not
Yeah.
really going away from it. Like that's where you're trying to build a nest, in other words, versus in a complete departure. So,
but I'm trying to Kristen's, what I was
you gotta
trying to
manage
connect
it.
was that I'm trying to use that time in New York to creatively and spend more time alone, even though I'm in the busiest city in the United States.
Finding
But
you.
yeah,
Maybe that's the name of our book.
I dig it.
I think that's our.
And I think it's like we don't need an 8-day trip to accomplish this.
That's
and
right.
That was one of my takeaways.
just need intention.
How do I create this space for myself every day? And there's a great book called The Artist's Way. And in the book, we talk about artist dates. And so taking yourself on an artist date, maybe it's going to a museum or going out to dinner by yourself or going for a walk, but it's what do you do to connect with you? And in my retreat, I did some yoga. And I had a yoga teacher that would read a poem at the end of every session. And she read one called, I think it's called How Brave You Are by Layla Eileen. And I remember this one line, something like, and the paradox is that when we stop our incessant doing, even for just a minute, we recognize what we absolutely must do and what instead can fall away.
Wow. Ooh,
Okay,
beautiful.
guys, she just recalled that with no notes.
No notes.
It might not be the real
But
line,
it's good.
Well,
like
Jordan will put all of that in the show notes because
That
that
was
is
really
yummy.
impressive.
Wow. Yeah,
Yes.
that was great.
So you've done the hard work. I mean, there's more hard work to come. You know that. We all know that. But what's the state of you right now? How, where you've been? You had this enlightenment. You've gone on this trip. Where are you now?
I'm the most free, the most true, the most authentic. I can put my head on my pillow at night and know that I'm living my life as I want in my heart. And that to me is the biggest gift, to know that
Such a blessing,
you know, what I feel on the inside is what's happening on the outside. And I think it, like you said, I'm going to have another moment in my life. We all are.
Yeah.
It's inevitable where I have this
A season
point of
change,
growth
yeah.
and I feel the need to evolve. And I hope that when I get there again, I can take the lessons from this part of the journey there and remind myself that the only way to, live a true life is to have the courage to make a change. If you don't change anything, nothing changes.
Wow.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you just answered my next question.
Okay.
So what she just said, I was going to ask you, what is your advice for leaders who are going through change or are not drawn to change but must?
I think that a couple of things. Leaders who are going through change, it's hard. I think we need to let go of our desire to control the outcome. I think when we're going through a change, we want so badly to know what is it going to look like on the other side. And I think when we do that, we rush the part that's actually the best for us and the most powerful, which is that journey in between. And it's kind of like it has to get messy, I think, for it to be clear. And you have to be uncomfortable to land in a place where you feel like, yes, this is the place. And to allow yourself to really embrace that messy middle part, and to just really live in the question mark and to be okay with not knowing the answer. I think for people who are afraid to change, which is a totally human feeling, I just think about the quote, nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's right.
That's right.
And you live a life where you've got the status quo and, it's a question of, do you want more in your life? And if you want more in your life, it takes courage.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think that was, Meg teed it up as leaders and you answered the first part of that question as leaders, but really that was a human.
Yeah.
I mean, that could apply to students, leaders, parents. I mean, any designation out there that I think that was so beautifully stated is it's living with that question mark and allowing yourself to think beyond a prescription potentially you've been given by whatever it may be, and to be able to think about yourself and see yourself in a different light and be okay with it. We don't have to stay the same in a leadership seat or, even as a parent, things can change. And so I think our goal and what I think we have to do is like this current state of leadership is to make that okay. And I think we're on the beginning stages of breaking down leadership, and you've been a catalyst for that in so many ways, that making it more human.
Yes.
And that was part of our journey with the with the start of the 26 approval rating 9 years ago, part of my decision was to yes, work on me. But the other part of that decision is I didn't just want to own a company. I already owned a successful company. But I was like, I want a company where people work and they become a better version of themselves. In every area. So what does that look like? And that's when we started piecing it together. So yes, we're a marketing agency. Yes, we do these certain things, but really we're a company where people work, they get a chance to literally become a better version of themselves. And so, and I know, that we share that, that ideal and that commitment really is what it is. And it started with both of us deciding to be a better version of ourselves and inviting others along on the journey. And part of that for me has been deciding to change. And, when we were really following you, we worked on succession. Probably I started working on succession during COVID because that's when I knew I needed to start getting Megan more prepared because she didn't realize that it was conscious on my part, but it wasn't always obvious on her end. So then we go through 2020, get into 2021, and then it was like, okay, now it comes to the part where you have to start telling the company that there's going to be a change. And we did it a little bit differently than you did, but then life started to happen for me, and it accelerated things in a manner that I didn't really have a choice. And so I think that's a different version of, and I think we're in a similar spot now, but I think the way we got there was a little bit different, and that's what I wanted to share with our leaders. It's like, you can control that, not control it, but you can be aware of it. And so that you can take some more intentional steps, or my version was I took some intentional steps to prepare the company, but like I told you last night at dinner, I got one thing wrong about the succession planning of this company was what in the hell was I going to do with my time, which then was the next, it was the knock up, it was the knock up against, another knock that was like, threw me into a tailspin, because what it was once again was I had an identity issue. And it was a beautiful one because I was prepared this company to run literally without me making the day-to-day decisions. I mean, that's an accomplishment. And I knew it. And I wanted to celebrate that. And I wanted that to drive so many things. But at the same time, that was a real miss, was what are you going to do? And so anyway, now that's a year and a half later, we're figuring out what that is. But it's, I think that's just something. And again, I want to thank you for the things that you not only do, but the fact that you share it so openly. That has been also one of the catalysts that gave us the courage to start this podcast. Because this podcast is about you and I both, and Meg, we're self-starters. And most of the people that listen to this podcast are self-starters. It was the smarter part that we really needed to lean into. So just, again, I can't thank you enough for how you show up for your team and for your community and the people that that follow you. So
and you showed up right when we needed you.
It was incredible.
Yes. And for those of you listening, please visit KristenHadeed.com and take a look at her human leadership program. Danelle talked about it at the beginning. This is something Danelle and our people development and culture leader, Hannah, took together first.
We did.
Then you came back to me like, wait a minute. I think we need to do all of our leaders. We did that. We were all touched by it. And what I noticed about Kristen was she listens. She listens as much as or less than she actually speaks. But when she speaks, everybody also returns the favor and listens. Then we sent the whole company.
Oh, yeah. Everybody at this.
So everyone at DMA, the company that we work for, has taken the human leadership program. Highly recommend that you do that. For yourself first. Maybe you bring your executive team along, and then you give a gift of the Human Leadership Program. It's so beneficial. It's 2 days. We make it really easy and fun.
It's fun.
And community
Fun way to
based.
learn.
Yeah, community based. So you're talking with people you may or may not know, and it's just free sharing. So please go take a look at her program, and we'll put the link in the show notes.
And it's pay what you can.
And it's pay what you can.
Yes, it's pay what you can.
Wow, I didn't know you made that program.
Wow.
We don't want the fee to be a barrier at all.
That's
so where are you in your journey?
Yes.
Do you have to pay for it yourself? Are you going to have a company? Are you going to ask your leader to help you cover some part of the cost? Maybe you match their costs. You can negotiate that with your leadership.
Well, let me just disclose. I think when it was paid for, it was, I don't know, $250.
So worth it.
And I remember thinking, I feel like I need to write her another check because, first of all, we need to have a pricing discussion. My marketer mind went on. I was like, because the value that we got from this. So I just want to say it is worth any dollar. It's worth so much more than than we actually paid.
Okay, Kristen. So tell us a little bit about what you're cooking right now. I know you're cooking up something big.
Ooh, this new book. It's cooking. So still in the early phases in the proposal piece. So this could change.
Okay.
Could evolve. The book is about this idea that we all have a spark within us. And when our spark is burning bright, it means we're fulfilled, we're engaged with our work, we feel like we're living the truest version of our lives. And when our spark is not burning, it's the opposite of that. And I think what I used to believe is that it wasn't always my responsibility to keep that spark lit, that I really relied on external people, external things to keep that spark alive. And so then in my evolution with Student Made and really feeling that spark go out, recognized that the only person who could reignite that was myself by making these changes and by evolving. So it's really about how to take ownership of your spark and how when you really do that, you can inspire the people around you to do the same.
I love it.
And yeah, it's a lot about the future of work, and just we know that there's so many challenges right now in our world at work, and we see people moving from job to job to job, and
we talk about that.
The challenge to the reader is like, what would happen if we all just dug our heels in a little bit and worked to create the environments we wish to see and took ownership of that?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which is right in alignment with our company. So
Well,
it'll be all over desks here.
We definitely want you back when that comes out.
Yes,
Please,
yes.
please.
So I want to say, for our listeners' benefit, we are actually going to wrap up pretty soon this podcast, because we have Kristen here today at DMA to guide our retreat.
Yes, a company retreat. Yes.
And we have some making up to do, because what happened was,
One of my worst favorite memories.
I know, we really got to know Kristen. I did, in a kind of a crisis.
Yeah.
So Danelle had curated an experience for a retreat in December of 2021.
Correct.
We were out of the tough times of COVID-ish, but it was just around the time when it started to pick back up. And I'm laughing. It's not funny.
No, it's not. No.
It's not funny, but now looking back, it kind of is. So I'm having to say it out loud. We get everyone together at a hotel.
Not just a hotel, like a beautiful.
It's decked out in Christmas decor. Kristen flies in.
Yes.
She's going to host this beautiful, almost a version of Human Leadership Program, but curated for us specifically.
And it was an all-day event. We had evening plans the next day.
Talking about
it was
to the nines.
Yes, I was so
We
excited.
were staying at the hotel as a team. We were going to break bread together, spend time with Kristen together, and just get to know each other better.
Karaoke.
Well, somebody
Definitely karaoke.
Long about midday, and Kristen's in mid-presentation, Danelle announces that she has COVID.
Well, you kind of skipped a big chunk of the story. I didn't feel anything. We're kicked off the thing. Mackie Payton had flown. She and I had just flown back from New York. So Mackie was in NYU at the time. And so Mackie's at the retreat because she wanted to be there.
Sitting next to
you.
In my lap. No, I'm kidding. But I would have it that way.
Yeah, exactly. She gets a note from NYU that says, "You've been exposed." Mackie feels fine. I feel fine. But we had stayed at the hotel the night before so that we could get up and get everything ready. And so Mackie, she's like, "Let's go get tested." And I was like,
I was responsible.
Yes, that was.
I was like, okay, like, can't look at her in the eye and be like, I really didn't want to go get tested because didn't have the right mid-retreat. Like I didn't have my thinking cap on, but I did the responsible thing. So I was like, let's just go knock this out. They'll have lunch. No one knew where we were going except for Meg. I think we told you. Yeah. When we get that test back, Mackie Payton, the one that was exposed, was negative, but Mama was positive.
Yeah.
And
you went into a zone, man.
I couldn't believe it. And it's like I had to make a decision right then and there. The three of us huddled. And you go through all the things. It's not like, safety's first and foremost. Like I couldn't stay. There was no way I could stay. But then now I've already exposed people. So none of us could really stay. And we had to cancel the entire thing right then and there. And I think you and I couldn't speak because I had a mask on, but we tucked some pointers and it was
it was over by like 12:30.
It was so sad.
It was so sad.
And I just remember it was, but I think it was a lesson for us. And of course, Kristen so graciously led us through an online version months later.
Yes.
And we immediately hired her to do our next retreat, which we postponed a little bit because of the DMA babies that we talk about on here, so that our moms could be in attendance. But we're so excited to have you back today. So and everyone's feeling good, and those that aren't feeling good are at home. And we're excited. And so I would encourage any of you who are interested in our experience with Kristen leading us through a very personalized retreat where she comes in and works with the leadership team to work with your current state of business. Mm-hmm. And, this is not just material that she brings in and shares with us. This is specifically about our company and what we're going through and what we want to accomplish. And she's leading us through that. So if you're interested in our experience, give me a shout, give Meg a shout. And certainly we'll introduce you to Kristen. So
Yes.
COVID gate
2021. We're going to erase that. And now it's going to be celebratory 2023.
That's right.
COVID free.
COVID free.
All right. So let's transition to music while we have Kristen. I know. Let's talk about this. Curious, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Okay, I've never done karaoke.
Okay, wait.
And I know.
I just took a drink.
I'm going to regret saying this with you too.
Oh my.
And it's on my bucket list that one day.
Is it snorkeling issue? Like it's fearful?
It's a fear. Also, I would like to have voice lessons, have everyone think that I'm really bad,
Lord,
and then do it, and then win a karaoke contest.
Oh, it's a winning.
She wants to win American Idol.
Oh, look at that 3-wing coming out. Look at that 3-wing coming out right there.
It's like, why be average? Let me win it all. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Got lessons to sing Spiros' song at our wedding.
Oh, that's your beautiful husband.
for not having a great voice.
Talk about an overachiever, man.
I backed out.
Smart.
Yeah, I could have given you some pointers on some songs.
So my song, I would love to. I know I would love to do a Whitney Houston song.
Okay,
yeah, who wouldn't?
Do you know? Not like The Greatest Love.
I think the song is called I Have Nothing.
Oh, it is. It is called that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And I think it's from the what was that movie?
The Bodyguard.
The Bodyguard. It is from there.
I have nothing.
Yes. Oh. Uh-oh.
I'm not.
Okay, so Kristen, here's the thing: you never got to karaoke with us because I gave you COVID, and so
we're gonna karaoke.
We were gonna karaoke, and we had a spreader event. But what I would say is that we don't compete.
Yeah.
No.
And I can't. I can sing, and I do sing. I don't do it well.
She sings.
And so that kind of brings everybody into an uncomfortable environment. This is not, I can just get up there and do my thing. And it's all about what you're hearing. So you can sound like Whitney Houston in your own mind, and the rest of us are going to cheer you on. So just know that when
we belt it.
Yeah, we belt it.
It doesn't matter.
I don't want you to feel like you have to have music lessons next time I invite you to karaoke, okay?
No.
Or voice lessons.
Next time you're here, we're doing that. Okay. We have to.
And then we bring in people like Mackie Payton and her friends to kind of break it up.
Like in between. The good stuff. Yeah. They whip out the Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. One more question.
Okay.
It's just you.
Okay.
You're driving in a car, or maybe you're riding in a car after our conversation last night.
Driver. Okay.
The sun is out. Your hair is blowing in the wind. What are you listening to?
Best of My Love, the emotions.
All right. You get the best of my love. Okay.
I love that. Love that.
I think we're soul sisters when it comes to music. You like a lot of R&B.
I do.
I do too. All right. I see you, Kristen. Do you know who your most listened to artist is on Spotify?
I don't think I listen to so many. I don't think.
It ranks it.
It ranks it. I can show it to you. Yeah, we'll show you afterwards.
We got to go find her rap, but that'll be fun.
Okay, yeah. It's rap, WRAP, which is like your favorite artist, your top songs listened to for the whole previous year.
Okay, after this show.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to go play with Kristen's phone and get into Spotify and look at who her favorite artist is. Maybe we'll share it on social media. I think that'd be fun. Remember, we're going to have lots of notes for you in the show notes today, so take a look there. Please check out KristenHadeed.com. Tell a friend about Self Smarter and Kristen Hadeed. We'd love that. And until next time, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming Self Smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.